Boker Tov, today's daf, Shavua Tov, today's daf is Daf Lamed Daled in Nizir. Even though the podcast, if you listen to it, took you up to the Mishnah, we'll start to the new parak. We'll start from the Mishnah to the first Mishnah on Lamed Daled, almost halfway down the page. Rosh Hakoy. Now here's an example. Here we talked about this case, the case we had back on Lamed Beis and Beis. 9 people were walking and they met some guy coming opposite them. One guy said, I'm a Nizir if he's a Nizir, I'm a Nizir if he's not a Nizir. Who is that guy, etc., etc. Here we're going to have a similar case. A man saw a koi. A koi is a famous kind of an animal. We don't know what that animal is today. It could have been that it's some sort of a wild deer or a wild ram. Some say that it was a combination of a goat who mated with a deer. And they had this koi, and the rabbis could not determine whether it was a behemoth or a chaya. Now, there's different halachas about a behemoth or chaya. The chaylev of behemoth is also to eat on punishment of kares. The chaylev of a chaya is mutter, right? So there's different rules regarding a behemoth or chaya, but they could never determine what the koi was. This kind of a wild animal, they didn't know what it was. So here the Mishnah says, let's say a man sees a koi, and he says, "Harini nazir shezeh chaya." I'm a nazir if that's a chaya. Probably he meant to say, I don't think it's a chaya. I'll be a Nizir if that's a chaya, because it's not. And then another guy said, Hareni Nizir shezeh chaya. I'll be a Nizir if it's not a chaya, meaning I know that it is a chaya, so I say it's a Nizir if it's not. And then Hareni Nizir shezeh behema. The other guy said, I'm a Nizir if it's a behema, because I don't think it is. Or Hareni Nizir she'ein's a behema. Fourth guy said that. Fifth guy said, Hareni Nizir shezeh chaya. I think it's both. I think it's a combination. If it came from what they say, a tayash and a tzviya, a he goat and a she deer, then it maybe is. It's maybe a behemah and a chaya, right? There's a she'enza, lo chaya. The sixth guy said, I'm a nazir if it's neither one. There's a she'echad became nazir. The seventh guy said, I'm a nazir if one of you guys is a nazir. There's a she'ein echad became nazir. The eighth guy said, I'm a nazir if one of you is not a nazir. One of you definitely is. Or the ninth guy said, I'm a nazir for all of you, Nazir. Nizir. They're all Nizir. Now the Pashim shot over here is that there were 9 guys, and why are they all Nizir? Then not all. It can't be that they're all correct, right? So Rashi says over here, I'll leave it by Shammai. We had by Shammai the other day. Remember the case with the 9 guys coming? Is he a Nazir? Is he not? I swear he is a Nazir. I'm a Nazir. If he's not a Nazir, I'm a Nazir. If he is a Nazir, back and forth, and none of you are Nazir. We had 3 or machlokas in the Mishnah. Beishamai said they're all Nazirim, because if you said already Nazir, remember, Beishamai Shita is that Hegdish Batos is a Hegdish. Made a mistake, still Hegdish. Basil says no, Hegdish Batos is not. Who is a Nazir? The only one whose words were really fulfilled. If Jim came, they said, I'm a Nazir if that's Jim. And then they saw that I'm a Nazir if that's Jim. Turned out it was Jim, then he's a Nazir. Only the ones whose words were fulfilled, the way Gemara came out the first shot in Basil. So Beishamai says no. Even Batos, even if you made a mistake, it's still a Nazir. Rav Tarfon said, a third opinion, no, nobody's a Nazir, because it's got to be very clear when you made the Naziris. If you can't wait to determine later on if it's Jim or if it's not Jim. You had to know. It's got to be very clear when you made the neder, are you a Nazir or not? So we have 3 of machlokas over there. Rashi over here says, oh, this goes according to Beishamai, because over here nobody knows if it's a behemoth or a chaya. The rabbis weren't able to determine it. Nobody knows if it's behemoth or chaya, if it's both, if it's neither one. Is it a beri b'fnei atzma? Is it nothing? Like an androgynous, androgynous has both male and female genitals. Is it a male? Is it a female? Is it both? Is it neither? Is it some kind of a third kind of a gender? Like today they have many kinds of genders, right? We used to, when we grew up, there were only 2. Now there's many, right? So whatever you want to be, right? So here. Beishamai said you could Hegdish Batos is a Hegdish. Whatever you said, that's what Beishamai says. So first, before we get to another shot in the Mishnah, let's see the Gemara. Tani Chada one brisa learned Tisha Nazir. They talk about 9 cases, 9 different Nazirs. Right? There's 9 guys over here. One guy said I'm a Nazir if it's a Chaya. One guy said I'm a Nazir if it's not a Chaya. One is a Behemoth, etc. etc. The Tanirach Tisha Naziros. No, one guy who made 9 times a Nazir. He was a Nazir 9 times. He became a Nazir. How does that work? So Bishlam Tisha Nazir, and I understand you could have nine guys here being Nazir, 9 different Nazirites. Keep going. There were more people. Did this Basel Bay? Each one said, How did he say it? So Rashi brings down two pshatim, but the simple way to learn the 9 guys, Rav Shesha says, so you could have 9 guys you could have, right? Because each guy, we had the 6 that are mentioned in the Mishnah. I'm a Nazir if it's a Chaya. I'm a Nazir if it's not a Chaya. I'm a Nazir if it's Haim, I'm a Nazir if it's not a Haim. I'm a Nazir if it's both, or I'm a Nazir if it's not either one. And then 3 more guys came along with them. Rashi says, go to Havi Gavi Tfei. Rashi's still up near the Gemara, right after the Mishnah. Shkasuk go into Havi Gavi Tfei. Did this about Azbaharia? Adari the Pasachad Bamare Nazir Shu Chaya. What does it say? And they went on. Rashi goes down. Bamar Shvi, and the 7th guy said, already Nazir She'echad Mikam. I'm a Nazir in front of you as a Nazir. The 8th guy said, a Nazir She'einechad Mikam Nazir. Retesham Already Nazir Shekucham Nazirim, which is pretty much what the Mishnah said, right? The way the Mishnah said it. You said you have, you had. I'm a Nazir if it's a Chaim, Nazir if it's not a Chaim, Nazir if it's a Behem, Nazir if not a Behem, Nazir if it's both, I'm a Nazir if it's either one. I'm a Nazir if you guys are Nazir, I'm a Nazir if none of you are Nazir, I'm a Nazir if all of you are. So you can easily have 9 guys there. Elitation Nazirus L'chad Gabrech Mishkach, says the Gemara, back in the Gemara here, right before the end of the parak. How do you have 9 Nazirus with 1 guy? Bishlama Shis Mishkachasla. Okay, the first 6 we can Kedetanan. You could say, I say I am a Nazir if he is a Chaya. I am also a Nazir if it's not a Chaya. I'm a Nazir if it's a Behema, a Nazir if it's not a Behema. I'm a Nazir if it's both, I'm a Nazir if it's either one. How do you have the last 3? How do you get between 7, 8, 9? Rav Shesha going to Amar Hareini Nazir. He says, I'm a Nazir in those cases. The Nazirus Hakol Alai. So Rashi explains here, Rashi now in the wide lines, the beginning of the wide lines, not the widest lines near the bottom, but a little bit past half the way. Rav Shesha, what does that mean? The first 6 we get, right? All right, that's 6. He said in general, any Naziris that you can make about this koi are on me. What it could go? I accept myself a 7th Naziris, whether it's a Chaya or whether it's not a Chaya, I'm a Nazir. All right, Nazir. I'm a Chaya, whether it's a Behema, it's not a Behema. I'm a Nazir, whether it's both or whether it's neither one. And as he added on top of that, either one. First he said, I'm a Nazir if it's a Chaya. Then he said, I'm a Nazir if it's not a Chaya. That's 1 and 2. I'm a Nazir if it's a Behema, I'm a Nazir if it's not a Behema, 3 and 4. I'm a Nazir if it's both, I'm a Nazir if it's neither one, 5 and 6. Then he says, on top of that, I'm a Nazir either way. Now he adds on another. I'm a Nazir either way. I'm a Nazir if it's a Chaya or if it's not a Chaya. That's number 7. I'm a Nazir if it's a Behema or not a Behema. I'm a Nazir if it's both or neither. That's his 9. That's how you get 9. But interestingly, Rashi in the Mishnah, I said, pointed out that goes according to Beis Shammai, who says, even though it's totally unclear what he, what we don't know if it's not, we don't know. He's stuck. He's still a Nazir because Beis Shammai says, even by mistake, you become you said already Nazir, even if it's a mistake, you're a Nazir. Just like Hegdish, you might do something to toast. It's Hegdish. Okay. So it goes apparently like Beis Shammai, because according to Tarfon, it certainly can't go. Tarfon, it's got to be very clear when you made the Naziris. Are you a Nazir or not? Yes, the whole thing has to be very clear. Beis Hillel said before, only if it's Mekuyim. Well, see, before in the case where Jim said, hey, I'm a Nazir if that's Jim. So you could see, is it Jim? If Jim shows up, it's Jim, right? If it's not Jim, if we don't know, it's not, right? Beis Hillel goes with the sheet back at Daf Chesed Aleph, not like Rav Shimon who says that Suffolk Naziris is l'chumra, like Suffolk Nadarim is l'chumra, but Beis Hillel goes with the sheet that we had back in Daf Ches, that Suffolk, even though Suffolk Nadarim is l'chumra, Suffolk Naziris is l'kula. So Beis Hillel would say, if it's not clear, you're not a Nazir, right? Not a Nazir. So over here also, the chart doesn't go with Beis Hillel. Comes along Rashi in the first of the widest lines. Look at Rashi down at the bottom. In the widest lines, his teachers taught him different than what Rashi said in the Mishnah. Can even go like Beis Hillel. Listen to this differentials that he made. Not everybody holds of this, but Rashi brings it down, obviously from his Rebbe, but he didn't go with that in the Mishnah, and other Rishonim don't hold like that either. He said, why? He made a mistake. Beis Hillel says a mistake doesn't count. Then you do him koiza min chaya or min behema. Then even karamar koi lo achid. We don't know. The Chum didn't determine whether it is a behema or not. It's a suffix. I feel Beis Hillel moda davi nazir. Rashi's making a big difference. He's saying, listen to this. Maybe Beis Hillel holds that a mistake doesn't count. A mistake of Hegdish or a mistake of Naziris, maybe that doesn't count. But a suffix does count. Suffix Naziris could be L'chumra. That's what he's saying over here. Not like it seems to be on Chesam and Aleph, that we don't, right back on the Ches. What did we say about Ches? That we had a machlokes there between Rav Shimon and who? It says it didn't say something was like Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says not suffix Naziris L'kula. Rav Shimon says it was a Chumra. He wants to say over here maybe Beis Hillel will also like Rav Shimon that suffix Naziris is L'chumra. Is a difference between a mistake and a suffix. Meaning, in the case of Jim, is that Jim? Is that Jim? I don't know if it's Jim or not. Right? I don't know if it's Jim. Okay, and if it can't be determined, let's say Jim ran away. The guy's coming. He says, I think that's Jim. I think it's not Jim. Right? We don't know. Is it Jim or not Jim? And he ran away. We don't know. So in a case like that, it's a suffix. We don't know. But if it could be determined, it'll be determined. If it's determined, yes, it's determined not. But if it's a mistake, maybe not. But a suffix like over here by the koi, nobody will ever know. We don't know. The rabbis didn't know. Is it a behemoth or a chai? Is it neither one? Is it both? We don't know. So he says maybe over there, maybe where Beis Hillel says that a mistake doesn't count, so that a hegdish betos doesn't count, but a suffix hegdish, maybe you would go l'chumra, and he would say that it does count, and therefore our Mishnah could even go like Beis Hillel, because it's indeterminate. You'll never know. It's always a suffix. Here he's Rashi goes on in the third of the wide lines there. I feel Beis Hillel noted to Havi Nazir. The dafka of a dekanami, and he's proven. Listen to the great proof that he brings. The stama the mastis the koi Beis Hillel. The misal Beis Hillel los feel the suffix nazir. If Beis Hillel holds that a suffix nazir is not a nazir, Myra the Kabbalah before on the Friday we learned mastis and the Tani here. See, let's say Jim walked away. Jim turned around and walked away, and we said over there, if he walked away, he's not a nazir. We don't know. Ain't a nazir. If Shimon says, yeah, you have to go l'chumra each way. But we said, who is the author of the Mishnah? It says, if Jim turned around and we can't determine it, it's not a nazir. We said, who is that? Oh, it's Rav Yehuda, who holds by the Kri. Remember, by the Kri, it's actually at the top of this page, right? The top of this page in Amid Aleph, we learned it actually on Friday. Who does it? If it's from Tarfon says it's got to be very clear. You have to have a flaw. It's got to be very clear you made Nezra. Elmai, who is it? It's Rav Yehuda the Kri. Remember who's Rav Yehuda the Kri? Rav Yehuda said, I'll be a Nazir if the pile over there has 100 core. Then he went to check the pile and it had blown away or somebody had taken it. You can't determine it. You don't know. So Rav Yehuda says you go Lakula, right? Why don't you say it goes like Beis Hillel? It's a suffix. We don't know. It's indeterminate, right? If you said, I will be a Nazir if that pile has 100 core. You went over there, it was gone. You'll never be able to find out. No, doesn't Beis Hillel say that suffix Naziris is Lakula? Why do you say it goes? You have to figure it goes like Rav Yehuda, say it goes like Beis Hillel. Why does it say it goes like one rabbi? Must be the Rabbi. He says, therefore, you see here that Beis Hillel holds suffix Naziris is L'chumra. Over here, when he says it's a mistake, you don't know. It's a mistake. You did it by mistake. Okay, you made hegdish by mistake. That's hegdish by mistake is not a mistake. Is hegdish betos is not hegdish. Right? That's what he says. Tos hegdish is not hegdish. But Shammai says tos hegdish. Beis Hillel says it's not. That's not the same as a suffix. A mistake, he says, doesn't count. But a suffix could be held l'chumra. That's what Rashi goes on to say. V'dekanami, the koi could be Beis Hillel. The misal Beis Hillel lo sphere like the suffix nazir havi nazir. Myri kaboy tan masisim the toini hirtia l'chorav ein a nazir. He says elam is a tarfa. Not like comes here. Vayikol name it Beis Hillel. Elamidik mahadu lukma libe achad tana, which is Rav Yehuda, as we had at the top of this page on Lamed Aleph. We learned the top of this page on Friday. Beis Hillel lo metukma. Can't come out Beis Hillel have nazir gomer ki hirtia l'chorav. So Beis Hillel will say when he turned around, when the Mishnah said, if Jim turned around, we don't know if that's Jim or not, and he turned around. He said, Jim, is it not Jim? And he ran away. We don't know who it was, right? Who? And we said, if he turned around, he's not a Nazir. Who's that? Why isn't it Beis Hillel? Suffix Naziris is Lakula. Why don't you go? No, he says Rav Yehuda of the Kri, of the pile. But they still hold that a suffix Naziris is L'chumra. So therefore, this Mishnah, according to Rashi, who quotes this Mora, this teacher of him, that the Mishnah could even go Beis Hillel. So as a Shaila, is this Mishnah Beis Shammai, or is it even going to Beis Hillel? Halach Beis Shammai, that ends off this parak when we begin the new parak, which many times in Shas you find that later on in the, why didn't we start off this way? We started with the Kol Kinuy and Naziris and all that way. We started off in the Durham. Why don't you tell us the basic idea of Nazir? What is a Nazir? he's prohibited from eating the three things. Well, that's what the Mishnah teaches us now. After 33 pages or so, he finally gets to the main point. Shlosha mina nasur b'nazir. 3 different species or isurim are involved in a nazir. What can't he? What are the 3 prohibitions? He can't be tamei l'meis. He can't go to a funeral. He can't shave, cut his hair. Anything comes out of the vine. Now here's going to be our issue. Tumah, we understand. You're tamei, right? Cutting your hair. You don't cut your hair at all. What is that? Anything comes out of a vine. The first is anything comes out of the vine. The vine tree, whatever you call it, the shrub or the tree, whatever it is, it's got many parts to it. It's got shoots, it's got branches, it's got twigs, it's got grapes. In the grape itself, we have the kernel, we have the skin, we have the inside part, right? So what is usher? It all adds up. In other words, you need a kazayis. So first he tells you, the main thing over here is that it's a kazayis. You're not chayv unless you have a kazayis. Of course, we hold that chatzi Shiur is usher minator. So shaila, if you're not allowed to eat something which is not kosher. So let's say I just took a taste. Is that usher? That's also usher. You're not chayiv, whether it's malchus or chorus, depending on what the yisur is. You're not chayiv unless you have a kazayis. That's the shiur, the halacha mishmesinai. But it's usher anyway. Chatzi shiur is also usher. So shal is it usher midaraisa midarabban? I think we hold it's usher midaraisa, but it's usher. But you're not chayiv until you eat a kazayis. Now he says min ha'anavim, from the grapes. Now this will exclude that we're not talking about the shoots, right, or the roots or something like that. You're not chayiv if you eat this. We'll see another opinion. Or you chayiv, let's say the leaves on the vine also. What about the leaves? So we'll see there's a sheet those leaves and shoots are also forbidden, even though they're fresh, etc. There's a sheet, but our Mishnah doesn't say that. Our Mishnah says ein chayiv ha'chiyochol minav. It's got to be from the grapes, and you have to have a kazayis. Okay. Now, and he says, recall ayotzim and get from mitzvah from zemzeh. What we'll see that means is that let's say you had a skin of a grape and the juice of the grape and a little bit of it, not even a whole grape, but you just had a little bit of skin, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. If it adds up to kazayas, you're chayav. Mishnah Rishon on Amid Beis. Mishnah Rishon said, Mishnah Rishon, the first Mishnah, as originally they learned. The earlier learning was Mishnah Rishon said that what? That he takes out the Omer's, right? Mishnah Rishon said that ad sheyishta revius. Ad sheyishta revius. You're only chayiv if you actually drink wine, the grape juice. You got to drink a revius. You got to drink a shiur. That's what they originally said. Rabbi Kiva apparently disagreed. Rabbi Kiva says no. Afilu shar pito biyayin. Even if you dunk your, do you like to dunk? Take that challah and dip it in the wine. Even if you dunk your challah, your bread in the wine, and there's enough there to come to a kazayas, you're chayav. So some say this is obviously argues. The original said, yeah, you got to drink a revius of wine. Rabbi Kiva said, no. You don't have to drink a revius of wine, even if you just had a kazayas. Now, what I mean, you dunk your bread in there, and there's enough to mitzvah kazayas, you're chayav. Okay, now, different ways to learn. Some say the Pashas Rabbi Kiva disagreed. You don't have to drink a revius of all. Revius is one shiur. Rabbi Kiva is giving another shiur. Rabbi Kiva, some say though, no, that it's the same shiur. That's the same shiur, that if you have a revius of wine, which congealed, it would become a kazayas. In other words, we have a shiur of revius of wine, that's halacha mishmisi, we have a shiur of kazayas. It could be it's one and the same. It's just in a liquid form, it's a revius. In a solid form, it's a kazayas. That's one thing. So it could be that they're not really arguing, or maybe he's defining what the Urlamir said. Or another pshat Rabbi Kiva is that normally, I'll give an example. Let's say you can't eat nevela, right? You go into, goyish Wendy's or something in America. You can't have a hamburger and nevela. That's called nevela, not kosher meat. When are you chayiv if you had a kazayas? Let's say I only had a half a kazayas of meat, and the bun made a kazayas out of it, right? With the bun, I had one bite. The bite had a half a kazayas of meat and a half a kazayas of the bun. The bun was kosher, let's say, right? It wasn't. Am I chayiv? So you say no. Normally, heter is not mitzvah to isser, right? You have to have a kazayas in order to be chayiv. You have the kazayas of the non-kosher product, not the bun. But when it comes to certain exceptions in the Torah, and that's what Rabbi Kiva is saying also. When it comes to a nazir, even though the wine was only, let's say, half a kazayas of wine, but the bread that you stunk in adds up to it and makes it a kazayas. That what we call the concept of heter mitzvah isser, which you don't find by other isurim. but by Nazir you do find it. That's what he says. Rabbi Kiva says, even if you dunk the bread in the wine and there's enough to add up to a kazayas with the bread, you think, no, you got to have a kazayas or either a vias or kazayas of the wine. No, even if it's completed, the kazayas is completed with the bread, which is okay. No, it probably need bread. That's also chayiv. Okay. The chayiv ala yain b'fnei atzma v'anav b'fnei atzma. You chayiv on each of chazadim b'fnei atzma v'alazagim. Let's say you had a kazayas of wine. We'll call it a kazayas or a vias, and you had a kazayas of grapes, and you had a kazayas of chartzanim. We'll see the chartzanim are the kernels. Let's assume that it's machlokas, but we'll see. We're going with the opinion that the chartzanim are the kernels, and a kazayas of the skins. Right? You're chayiv on each one. You're chayiv on each one separately. In other words, you're chayiv if they all added up to one kazayas, you're chayiv for that. But if you had a kazayas of each one, you're chayiv for each and every one. That's what the Mishnah is saying. Listen to this. You're not chayiv at all if you eat even a kazayas of grape juice, unless you had 2 seeds and a skin. You have 2 seeds and a skin. Elam chatzanim, but what are the chatzanim? What are the zagim? What do you mean chatzanim and zagim? Chatzanim. The first one is chatzanim elu achitzonim. The first one is a chatzanim is the skin, the zagim and pnim, and the zagim means the kernels. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi Omer, which is what we'll see. Like Rabbi Lazar is probably going like him because he says based on the pasuk with chatzanim adzag that Rabbi Yossi says shalotit, you shouldn't make a mistake. Kazuk shavema, like the bell of an animal. The bell that the hangs on an animal's neck, right? Inside is the inbal, the anvil, right? And outside is the zug. So he says, Shalotita kazuk shabeima hachitzon zug. The outside is the zug, is the outside of the bell is the outside. In our case, compared to grape, it's the skin. Pnimi inbal on the inside is the inbal or the anvil, the inside that makes the noise. That's the inside. So the zag is the skin, and the chartzanim is the seeds. There's a machlokas about it. That's Rabbi Yossi's opinion, and apparently Rabbi Lazar is going like that too, because he says the pasuk says mechartzanim ad zag. Right? The pasuk says yain shecher yazir chometz yain v'chometz shecher lo yishta. So listen very carefully. These 2 psukim are very important. Shouldn't drink from wine and strong drink. Chometz yain, even vinegar, v'chometz shecher lo yishta. Chamishos anavim, anything that you dunk the grapes in any combination lo yishta v'anavim lachem v'yaveshim, whether they are moist or dried out. That pasuk is going to be key, as we're going to discuss now. From the seeds until the skin. So he says it's got to be, you have to have, you're not chayv unless you have chatzanim adzag. And the Mefarshim say, and it's in Pshat over here in Rav Lazar ben Azariah, you have to, that it could be, even if it's not a kazayas. Yes, could be a kazayas of other things. He says here, Rav Lazar ben Azariah holds like a Yossi, that zug is the outside and the chatzanim is the inside, the kernels. He says the Talmud of Lazar ben Azariah, pasuk chatzanim adzag, even if you need the kazayas, if you ate the skin and 2 seeds, you're chayiv. Like we say by berry b'fnei atzma, if you eat a very small rodent, a small sheretz or something, right? So tiny, it's not even kazayis, but if it's a whole complete being, then you're chayiv because it's choshev by itself. So right? Achal Rabbi Yehuda k'muvan ein lefarish came lefish shtei klipos v'gar Rabbi Yehuda v'garin echad ein atzuras brias shonab. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold that way. Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah holds that way. Okay. And that makes sense when we say Rabbi Lazar holds like Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah, as we're going to see in the Gemara. It could also be that he holds in a chayiv unless you ate it from the same grape. So Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah says you have to have 2 seeds and a skin in order to be chayiv, and it could be holds even if it's not a kazayas. Maybe he argues on that too. So now the Gemara. Let's see the Gemara. Shloshim min asurim.
Period. So one seed should be.
But the pasuk says hartzanim too. That's why. As we'll see now in the Gemara. Shloshim min asurim. So the Gemara, the Mishnah said that 3 species or 3 prohibitions involved in asur atuma, etc. Hayotzim in the geffen. Then the Mishnah said anything comes out of the geffen. Hayotzim in the geffen, and only if it comes out of the vine tree, which is like a grape. Geffen asmalo, but not the vine tree itself, not the vine. Masis lo kablazer. Mishnah doesn't go kablazer. Tan Rabbi Lazar Omer. Afilu all love mashma. Even the leaves and the shoots, the green shoots that come out, the fresh roots, are also included. That's Rabbi Lazar's opinion. But our Mishnah said no, only what grows out of the tree, not the tree itself. Only what grows out, which is the grape. Some say the same drasha, but not based on hayotzim and geffen, but from the seifa. Seifa. Menanovim kazais, you got to eat from the grapes. Menav ain, only from the grapes. Ain, I get not from the vine itself. Masis local blazer mission doesn't go like a blazer. The time of blazer omer, I feel all of that mashma. Okay, so what's the machlokas here? We have a machlokas between our Mishnah, which says you're only chayiv on what? On things that come out of it, meaning on anything, any part of the grape. Let's call it any part of the grape, the skin, the inside, the juice, the kernels, right? Only the grape itself, and it grows out of the vine, but not the vine itself. For Belazar, it's no, the whole vine tree is usher, even the shoots and the leaves. What's the machlok? The famous machlokas throughout Shas. Do you darshan with ribuy and meat? Do you learn it with like an amplification, a ribuy, an inclusion, and a limitation, which is always includes more? Or do you darshan Torah klal prat? We say every day the yugdam amid is klal prat klal with the swarf klal prat. There's also a way to learn ribuy. So which is the preferable way to learn, with ribuy meat or with klal prat? So ribuy meat always includes more, and klal prat usually includes less. So Rabbi Lazar darish ribuy meat. Rabbanan Darshi Klal Prat to learn Klal Prat. Klal Prat means do you learn it with generalizations and specifications, or do you learn like Rabbi Lazar with amplifications, Ribuy and Miyat? Rabbi Lazar Darshi Ribuy and Miyat. What does the pasuk says? Miyayin v'shecher yazir. Refrain from drinking wine and strong drink. Miyat. That's a limitation, right? It's a limitation. Just yayin and shecher. Then it says Mikola sheyas migefen. Oh, anything come out of the vine. Maybe migefen yayin. Riba miyat, that's riba. That includes more. In other words, if we just say yain v'shech, we just say, okay, only wine. Any wine. Then it says anything that came out of the geffen. Anything. That's riba. Miyat riba. So you have a limitation and an application. Riba kol, you include everything. My riba kol mil, you include everything. My miyat shabishta. Only things you have to limit something. There is a miyat there. So you limit only that it's a limitation only on twigs. In other words, but the shoots and the leaves, which are fresh, and you can see that's good, but the twigs not. Okay, so Rabbi Lazar says that you're chayiv if you eat the shoots or the leaves of the vine. Rabbanan say no, you're not chayiv, only the grapes. Rabbanan dashi klal prat. How do they dash klal prat? Meaning a generalization and a specification. It says miyayin v'sheichar yazir. You should refrain, right? Abstain from eating. From drinking wine and strong drink. Obviously, it means strong drink from wine. You don't make hops, beer, or whatever's not included there. That's a prat. Yam shechi yazer, that's a prat. That's a specification. Because she asked me geffen, but Belazar used before for a amplification. Here is a generalization. Geffen, that's a klal. Okay, anything made out of the geffen, and then afterwards the pasuk gives me chartzan badzag, from the seeds until the skin. Chazor part, that's a specification, a specific thing. Pradu klal prat. What's the rule? Klal prat klal. Yet not eloquent prat. Only like the prat. Like it's not just the prat. See, klal uprat is ein b'chlal al mashav prat. Pradu klal. The klal is mosif on the prat. Klal uprat. Prat uklal uprat. You learn like the prat, but not only what's in the prat. The prat is clearly wine, right? And then we have another prat, right? The first prat was wine. Then we have michasan hazar, anything like the prat. Ma prat, just like the prat mefurish. What's the clear, what the pasuk said beferish. Ma prat mefurish. What was the clear, the one that was detailed in the pasuk. Ma prat mefurish, just like the detailed specification is a fruit like yayin, upsolas pri, and the refuse of pri, vinegar. The pasuk says chometz, right? That's the thing. Afkol pri upsolas pri. So any kind of pri or refuse of the pri is included. That's what we learn from klal prato klal, that not only the prat, but anything like the prat. The prat that said in the pasuk is yayin. That's the pri, and psolas pri, and the refuse of the pri, which is vinegar. Afkol pri, so any other kind of fruit or any other kind of refuse is also included, because that's the kalu parakal, anything like the prat. What does that include? We'll see what it includes in a minute. Ima prat mefurish pri gomer. Wait a minute, maybe the prat says only a ripe pri, mefurish pri gomer, a complete pri, meaning a ripe one. Afkol pri, maybe only a ripe wine gomer. Amradim kemaniach lahakasav mashmo. So what else? What is if it includes everything? Shalom. What else include? What are you saying? It only means it's only coming to include ripe ones. What else could there be? That says it already said quoted the pasuk before. Whether they are moist or dry is included. Yain v'chometz haksivi. It already included wine and vinegar. So what else could include? If you say that the detail, the klal prat klal, that tell you anything like the prat, and it's only talking about the ripe ones. So what else is there? Everything was already mentioned in the pasuk. Don't learn the last way, which is pri gamor the first way, which is ma prat mefurish pri upsolas pri, just like the prat which is clearly explained in the Mishnah is in the pasuk rather is specified in the pasuk. It's mefurash portion of the pasuk that says a fruit and the refuse of the fruit like the vinegar. Anything like that is also included, and we'll see that it comes to include even unripe grapes or worm-eaten grapes. So for including anything like that, so what is the point of saying chatzam mazag? Just say, what's the point of saying chatzam mazag? If we're saying it's not just seeds and skins of a good grape, it includes even things that are unripe grapes or worm-eaten grapes. So what is chatzam mazag? Lo melacha. That's to teach you that you need the prat uklal prat to learn that way. If you say a prat uklal, if you just find a prat and a klal, what's the prat yayin and the klal kol asher what does Basik call kol asher yasabi gefena yayin. So if you only have a prat uklal, you can't say it's like the prat. Just the opposite. If you have prat uklal, most of all the prat includes everything. You can't extend it. Ladona became a prat. Elanasa klal mosif ala prat. When it happens is that again, if you only have a prat klal, the klal adds on to the prat. Until the pasuk tells you another prat afterwards. Now it's telling you that's the rule. Klal prat and mechal mashu prat. Prat klal adds on to the prat. Everything is added on, and you can't say it's just the prat. It's no, klal adds on everything, unless you have another prat afterwards. That's why you say chatzana mazag to teach me. You have to have the prat klal to say that it's game. Omar ma, so what are those? What are those things that are like the prat, meaning a pri and a refuse of a pri that are like the prat? Omar ma, what is that? He explains now. Ma prat before pri of solos pri. I've called pri of solos pri. Pri in there. I understand what the pri is. Those are grapes. Solos pri mai. What's that? Chometz. Okay. Which is vinegar, which is mentioned in the pasuk. Af kol pri, anything like the pri. What is it? Mahi guarki. Like those aren't. We're not talking about gorky pickles, but it means like unripe grapes. Af kol. What is af kol psos pri? What is the extra, the additional refuse of pri which are included? Amakana lasuya in ve different to include worm-eaten. Grapes that are unripe, but they were eaten by worms. That are worms in there. That's what he says. Different. Different usually means like they're not ripe, but here he means worm-eaten ones, according to Rashi. Va'adzag. What does that add on? What is adzag? Debate about the ones that are in between. Rashi says that the congealed part of the grape between the skin and the seeds. That they make leaves out of. If it's congealed and it's not in good shape, that's what that includes. That's adzag includes. So therefore, that's what the extra prat. You have a prat uklal. If it only be the prat, that's all it's included. The klal adds more, and then the extra prat afterwards limits it to anything like the prat. Not if it would only be klal or prat, it's only what's in the prat. If it would be prat uklal, it's everything added on to the prat. If it's prat uklal, it's anything like the prat. Anything like the prat. What is the prat? Fruits and refuse of fruits. So what do we include by the anything like the fruit? That's the unripe grapes. And what is the refuse of grapes? What's the thing that's like the refuse of grapes? Those are the worm-eaten grapes. Amar Mar. So we have this machlokas here in our Gemara, whether only grape products are usher, or even the vine, the shoots and the leaves are also usher. Okay, Amar Mar. Ma prat before we said, and this is just all repeating what we had before. Just like the prat has been detailed in the pasuk. It's clear, explicit. That's what I'm looking for. It's explicit. Ma prat before is explicit. Pre gomor it's a ripe grape. Afkol pre-gomer. That's what you want to say. Maybe it only includes ripe grapes. If you're telling me that it's coming to include any ripe grapes, that's already been specified in the pasuk. It's already been explicit. It says that in the pasuk, whether they are moist or dry. Yain b'chometz aksiv is also been explicit in the pasuk. It's already explicit, right? You can't learn this last way of only including something which is ripe. What do you need that for? To teach you that unless you have the prod afterwards, you don't learn it as a gain prod. If you have a prod, you can't learn it like the prod. It's not like the prod. Until the pasuk gives you the prod afterwards, which is tells you that last prod. That's what he tells you. Okay, fine. What about Rav Elazar ben Azariah? In our Mishnah, we mentioned that there's an opinion of Rav Elazar ben Azariah that you're not chayav until you eat sheikh chasan v'zag. It's mashma from Rav Elazar ben Azariah that even if you drink wine, you're not chayav. You could drink wine from today till tomorrow. You can go to the Kiddush Club and get drunk and drink wine all day, and you're not chayav until you have 2 seeds and a skin, maybe even from the same grape, as we said. Rav Elazar ben Azariah, until you have 2 seeds, and a skin. Oh, very good. How does he know the prat? He says chatzanim v'adzag. That last one is not telling me that it's klal uprat, and that's the prat. That's prat uklal uprat, not for the second prat after the klal. He says chatzanim v'adzag is to teach me you have to have 2 seeds and a zag. How is he going to know that? So one answer is Savalak Rav Elazar. Maybe he doesn't hold of this klal prat uklal at all. He holds like Rav Elazar to darish miyit v'riba. He says no, that the pasuk says ribu yamiyit. What does Rav Elazar say? Ribu yamiyit. Elazar darish ribu yamiyit. The ayin shecher is a prat, is a miyit, is a limitation, and Mikosh Yasa is an amplification, ribu. And you include everything. You include even the shoots and the leaves, and the miyit is to exclude twigs. Or maybe he goes that way. Or you buy some market, so you know. Elazar ben Azariah says 2 seeds and a skin. Really, goes like an abundant that goes klal par klal. Bisa kedath kedamer of Elazar ben Azariah. If we look at Azariah, lichte ve'rachmona lahaim chazan azar gabi prati. Why did it tell you the chazan was like the second prat after the klal? Right. First it said yain v'shecher. That's the prat, first prat. Then the second one was mikol hashiyasa. That's the klal. Then chazan mazag. If it would be like a Elazar ben Azariah, like if bisa kedath kedamer of Azariah, that's got to be 2 and 1. In other words, Rav Elazar ben Azariah said holds that you got to have two seeds and a skin. How does he know the prat? So he says he doesn't know, but he holds like a Elazar. Or I could tell you no, he really goes like the Rabbanan. Because if it would only be like Rav Elazar ben Azariah's Rosh Hashanah, why did it say it would only be for the idea of 2 seeds and a skin? Why did it say 2 seeds and a skin at the beginning? When it talked about the yain v'shecher, say 2 seeds and a skin of yain and shecher, and then tell me the klal afterwards of yasa of mikol sheyasa migefen yain. Why didn't it say it afterwards? Bisal kedaitach again. If it's only for a Elazar ben Azariah of 2 seeds and a skin, why did it tell you after klal? So maybe it's only for that. If he says that's why he says it afterwards to tell you the klal, like we've explained before in the Tanakama, right? In the Tan of our Mishnah, that it's for klal. So maybe it's only for that and not for 2 and 1. If that's the case, it should say mechatzanim v'zagim. It should say chatzanim v'zagim, shechatzanim v'shezagim, chartzan v'zag. Why? Let it say chatzanim v'zagim or chatzan v'zag. Why did it say l'mayos v'kasar rachmar? Why did Hashem say mechatzanim v'zag from chatzanim plural to 1, 2 and 1? Shema mino l'medeshe b'klal prat. They teach me they tell called prat. We can have a drasha b'chad sheyochol shechatzanim v'zag. Tell you both those drushes. In other words, it says shnei chatzanim v'zag. Tell me 2 and 1. You have to have 2 seeds and a skin to be chayav. And the reason why it said it after the klal is to teach me that it's prat uklal uprat, like the drush of our Mishnah. And therefore, he doesn't necessarily have to hold like Rav Elazar, who holds that you're chayav for eating the shoots or the leaves. Could be holds like our Mishnah. You're not chayiv on shoots. You're only chayiv on things that came out of the vine, which is grape or parts of the grape. But you're not chayiv for eating the shoots. And that's Rabbi Elazar Shita. Rabbi Elazar Mazari says 2 in 1. He says, yeah, it's 2 in 1, but it's still only from grapes. You're not chayiv for shoots or leaves, according to what we're saying now. But Rabbi Elazar Mazari's chiddush is that you're not chayiv if you drink a glass of wine. You're only chayiv unless you have, because he says clearly, Rabbi Elazar Mazari said in the Mishnah, and chayiv ad she'yochel shnei chazan v'zag. And as and he holds like Rav Yossi, shnei chazan v'zag means 2 seeds and a skin, possibly even from the same grape. All right, we'll pick it from here tomorrow. It's Shem Rav Blazer, the Darish Mida Reba, upon Manale. Well, how does he know call Prat? If he darshans, Rav Blazer says the Darish Mida Reba, Prat call Prat Manale. How does he know that drashik? Apparently, everybody holds the drashik. There's the Shlosh Midos, Shashan Vershavan. How does he know this concept?